So on this one, Paul George off the drive. Royce has decent position on him, but I think Rudy does need to come help, or it's going to be a foul or an and one, or maybe just a bucket. Gets the kick out to man in the corner here. Now, in this case, I think had Don known this was coming, he could have slid over and got onto man. So Don slides to the corner. Then Bogdanovich slides to Batum for that obvious pass coming next. And Royce, now that he's passed off in the paint, his man, gets back out to Morris to defend that shot. So I think that triangular rotation could help slow down those wide open corner threes. I've got a few more examples of this. Here's another one. Reggie Jackson's able to bully ball in. Rudy comes to help. And again, there's that just easy pass to the corner, which I think at this point probably makes more sense for Don to scramble to the corner, Bogey to slide over onto Batum, and then either Royce is going to Morris or Clarkson can pass off Reggie Jackson to Rudy and get out here to the top of the key to slow down Paul George's three, knowing that Rudy's there waiting in the paint if he needs help. Another one here. So the Jazz actually... see a similar setup, a lot of pick and roll here. They get that corner. This one goes a little better because on that initial pass, Bogey shows just enough to make man think, and he makes the pass over to Morris, which Bogey is able to get there to contest. And the Jazz, I mean, he can make that shot, but at least that's a contested wing three instead of a wide open corner three, which we have a lot less expected points on that shot attempt, just from the math and the expected points aren't there. So in this next example, we're going to see that Reggie Jackson gets by, but Don plays this pretty well. Passes Reggie off once Rudy comes to help, gets out to that corner to help man, and that two-man game is pretty well defended there. This one just doesn't end well because Don probably sees a little hobbled and slowed because of the ankle, fouls rather than just pushing this to the next action, forcing them to get deeper into the shot clock. But the initial defense on that corner three they're looking for went pretty well. The next one, so a couple good options there where Bogey kind of defended that initial pass and then Don had a good switch. This one doesn't go as well. Reggie Jackson is able to get by Clarkson. The least he forces him left. Rudy comes in to help. There's that pass to Terrence Mann, just the easy pass to the corner there who's wide open. Joe kind of fakes for a second, a little like Bogey did, but not as much that Mann believes he's coming. Holds, hits the corner three before Rudy can get out there. Again, I think if Joe comes hard here, then either Clarkson can pop out or Royce can slide over with Clarkson getting out to his man to cut that off a little bit better if we were preparing for a Game 7 there. And then this is another example here where Reggie Jackson's able to get past, Rudy comes out to help. Similar theme. I think we're going to have to switch here or rotate, which means Jordan sliding over to stop Batum, Rudy stay with Reggie Jackson in the paint, and Donovan getting back out there to help on Paul George. Then the last example here, before I'll stop belaboring these rotation options here. This play I was watching actually gave me an idea I wanted to throw out there for a potential modified zone. So we're starting out man. Rudy's guarding the corner, but he obviously wants to be in the paint. That's where he's the most effective. That's why he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Bogdanovich sees that what they're trying to do, he's getting in to want to help Conley in case Paul George is going to try and bully him. Rudy's now over there. And for a second, we kind of end up in a little bit of a shell zone. Rudy's down in the paint, and there's 4 guarding the perimeter. Now, in this case, the result turns out badly. Beverly somehow hits this shot. I still will take those odds, I think, of probably one of their worst three-point shooters shooting a contested three-pointer from the wing rather than an open three-pointer from the corner. But I think that this could be something here. So I wanted to draw this up on the whiteboard, and so I'm going to switch over to that here to talk about some options I see in this zone for the coaches to consider, bat around. If there's something there, great. If not, I feel like it would be, in this scenario, my job to bring ideas to be considered, and then coaches will either take them and improve on them or, move on to the next thing. So like I said, that last play gave me an idea for a modified zone to consider for when the Jazz are inevitably going to see that 5-out look again. Not many teams are going to be able to do that, as well as the Clippers, who kind of have a lot of guys in that 6'6" to 6'8" range who are big enough to defend the 4 and the 5, but still a threat to shoot. So I don't think a lot of teams are going to have that personnel, but I think the NBA is moving that way. And with as well as the Jazz are defending in the half court versus the pick and roll, I think other teams are going to start to use that against the Jazz a little more. So that set made me think perhaps there's something, a way a zone could work against this. So this is what I saw on that, and a lot kind of coming down the stretch was the Clippers would put man in the corner here. So in this scenario, the Clippers are the circles. Reggie Jackson's going to be green here, primary ball handler. The ball is going to be this little magnetic marble. The Jazz are the 4 charcoal blocks here, and then Rudy, because he's so long, is this magnet here. So what the Clippers were trying to do, it seemed like to me, was put Rudy in the opposite corner, so he's got to come a lot farther to get help, and then run a 2-man game here, especially if they could get Conley involved on a switch involving Paul George. So what I thought was, maybe we could do some kind of zone against this so that what doesn't happen is, it seemed like on a lot of these, as the action started happening and they're getting a mismatch here, Rudy comes over, they get initial penetration, pass to the corner for the open 3, which is going to require a lot of rotation. So what if we ran what probably looks closest to a traditional 2-1-2 zone, but I don't know that that's accurate, because a real 2-1-2 is going to look something like this. What I think I would call this is a 4R zone, meaning we've got 4 defenders out on the perimeter, and then Rudy covering the middle. Obviously, he can't camp in the paint, and he doesn't need to be far enough out to help defend the 3, because they're going to leave 5 out there. But this is kind of a shell zone with Rudy, and I don't think this is going to work for many other teams, because Rudy's combination of size and speed could make this work that most big men are not going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to defend guards out on the perimeter without giving up a drive or an open 3 nearly as well as Rudy, or being able to help cover on anybody who gets through that initial shell into the paint. So my idea here is that there's 2 up top and then 2 that are defending the corners pretty aggressively, and then Rudy's kind of playing at foul line extended and then covering the paint, almost like an inverted triangle, probably cheating over to the ball side, with the idea being that this defender is guarding the 3-point line pretty aggressively, so that if Reggie Jackson or someone gets around there, Rudy can easily slide over to cut that off. And there's not an easy pass here, because they've got Rudy on them, and even though there's 3 here, so there's theoretically someone open, it's not going to be an easy pass. What I would do if I were them, I would probably slide over to the top here and slide out, but our defenders should be able to get back out there to the perimeter out of here. So I think these 2 can be enough of a deterrent to these 3 that it's not going to be easy to beat, because Rudy is long enough to cut off the action to the paint pretty quickly and make this pass over the top pretty challenging. Some other counters I would try if I were the Clippers are, if these 2 guys are staying locked pretty heavily to the 3-point line, can this person cut in? Again, I think Rudy, as soon as somebody's cutting and somebody calls it out to him or he can see it, he can easily drop back. That's going to be a really hard pass over someone with Rudy's speed and length there. So then the other thing I would try if I were the Clippers on this set, Rudy's going to do pretty good helping in any pick and roll action. He's going to be able to cut that off. Or if anyone's able to beat their own man to the paint, Rudy is there to cut that off and help out. So maybe they'll go more traditional 5 out along here. And what I think this looks like is that these defenders are guarding here, and someone's going to have to shade to the ball, which means Rudy's going to have to kind of shade over to this side. Now maybe this defender's playing off a little bit so that if they make the direct pass here, sorry about that they can step up on that, and Rudy can drop here, and he should be able to get to that corner to defend that shot, which I'm not really concerned about Rudy coming out to the corner and Terrence Mann beating him to the hole. I think Rudy has become skilled enough on the perimeter that he's going to force Terrence Mann to have to work for something very difficult there. But it is going to require, out of this area, some coordination among the players for the 4 in the shell to guard those 5. Now maybe everybody cheats over like this in this scenario, knowing that with Rudy over here, this pass is going to be very difficult. Now maybe they can hit that consistently cross court to the wing here, but again, Rudy's pretty fast and big. He can probably get over there to contest it. So what I think this zone generally looks like is that there's 2 up at the wings, 2 up top, 2 guarding the corners, and they're probably not dropping all the way into the corner until the ball comes in, and then Rudy is cheating to whichever side has the ball as a defender there. So what I envision this is that Rudy is generally moving along around the free throw line a lot. These defenders are adjusting, and so that if this pass ever comes over, everyone can slide. So rather than Rudy ending up in the corner a lot, where he's away from the ball and has to come and leave this wide open, Rudy's generally at the free throw line where he can cut off drives right as they happen. If anyone cuts through, he can drop to the paint, and if they end up leaving somebody here, that's what we want anyway, is Rudy being able to defend the paint and having someone around. So the question is, can these four on the outside switch and coordinate enough in conjunction with Rudy being a pass deterrent and a drive deterrent to slow that down? And then his switching looks between this 2-1-2 modified zone or the 4R zone or the shell zone, whatever it's called. Once they start figuring that look out, do we change the coverages there to go back to Rudy in the corner just being better at that triangular switch, which we saw in the other videos? And are those two defensive adjustments enough to cut down the number of wide open corner threes, hoping, you know, they're going to want to get some shots. We're not going to be able to stop everything. Can we turn those open corner threes into contested wing threes or off the dribble threes, which should push the math farther in the Jazz's favor, give them a little more room for error? So I tried to find a couple examples where I think that 4R zone, that shell zone with Rudy defending the paint, but him camping out at the free throw line, being at the elbow on either side where the ball is. And this is one that occurred with 9 minutes left in the fourth, where what the Clippers are doing at this point, they're just going ISO, trying to either get past their man or draw Rudy out so they can get the open corner three. So here Reggie Jackson goes quickly enough that it's fast enough and away from Rudy that he can't get all the way over to help. So I wonder if we were in that 2-1-2 modified zone, that 4 shell with Rudy zone, what it would look like at this point right here if Bogdanovich and Rudy were switched. So Bogdanovich is playing the corner and Rudy's at his spot. Now he would probably be at the left elbow right behind Donovan. But so that's going to be a big deterrent. Reggie Jackson's not going to have anywhere to go on that. He's not going to be able to drive past Donovan with Rudy right there at the point of attack. His easiest pass to the right corner, there's a man sitting on that. So what he's really going to have to do is, if Bogdanovich, who is now Rudy, is out of the picture here, there's 2 guys guarding 3 over here. So he's going to have to make a pass over that way. But remember, Rudy is here as a deterrent. So when Paul George makes this drive, Rudy can slide down and cut that off. So my question is, could Rudy acting as a drive deterrent allow those 4 defenders to stick out in their shell on the outside without us having to worry about them being able to hunt specific matchups or pick and roll, which we'll see in this next example. So again, they're loading everyone up on the left side so that they can ISO and get a 2-man game going. And what they want to end up with here is Paul George on Conley, so he can do bully ball. He does it just quick enough that Rudy can't quite get there to help. I think that push-off should have been called. Maybe Mike needs to go against his professionalism and really flop there to sell it, but I know that's not how he plays. But again, if this is that 4 Rudy zone, once they're at this position, so Mike is probably in the corner and Rudy's up here at the paint. Royce passes him off, and I don't think that drive's going to go anywhere. And again, they're having to pass around the paint where there's 4 guys defending 5. They're going to have to slide around, but they've got Rudy to help pressure any drives and cut off any cross-court passes. And if we just get a couple of these things bouncing our way, different game, and we're going to game 7. Again, not trying to criticize. I'm sure all of these things are already aware and already brought up, and asking these players to make these perfect decisions in these 10th split-second decision times isn't fair, but just trying to do what I can here to provide useful analysis.